Good morning. I thought I would give you all some helpful advice on making these Brazilian rolls because I've had a lot of people try the recipe from my website and they're not coming out as pretty as mine. So I want to let you know, first of all, mine didn't start off coming out that pretty. It takes a while. But here's key number one. You have to get the Brazilian version of the cassava flour. One of them is, and I'm going to mispronounce it, polvillo dolce, and then one of them is polvillo aceda. Now here's problem number one. These flours come in bags like this. That's been an interesting issue. So my first suggestion is get the flour out of the bags before you use them. Otherwise, you're going to make a big mess. And I make a big mess anyway when I do this all the time. So that's step one. Get the flour into a different container because these bags are impossible to work with. You'll notice when you get the flour that the dolce is very, very soft. And then the azedo is more like the cassava flour that you might have bought at the store here. The azedo feels a little bit more like our cassava flour. It's got a really rough texture. And so for people who've only tried to make it with this one type of flour, it's not going to work that well. Here's the other little helpful hint. I actually have my water set up here because what happens is as I'm working the dough, I need to add little bits of water. You gotta feel the dough and you gotta keep working it until it feels right. In the meantime, I've got my, I did a mixture of ghee and coconut oil today to heat up. I can use ghee. If for some reason it doesn't bother my stomach, but if you only need to use coconut oil, that's fine. But I was running out of my coconut oil, so I mixed my ghee in it. All right, in the meantime, I have been cooking my sweet potatoes in the Instant Pot. And that's the other thing. The sweet potatoes have to be super soft. You can see how much of a mess I make every time I do this. So the sweet potatoes have to be really soft, almost overcooked. And so that is another key to this. And so you can see how much my sweet potatoes are cooked. And these are those jewel sweet potatoes. And the jewel ones are white-looking sweet potatoes, but they're definitely sweet potatoes, you can tell. All right, so here's, and I'm not very accurate in my measurements. So I kind of just play around with things. I add a cup of that, and then I'm going to add a cup of this, and I'm probably going to add a little more. I go back and forth. And then add a little bit more of this, and then I add in my ghee coconut oil mixture, and I start adding in my water a little bit, not a lot of the water, just a little bit. And then I've got to add in the sweet potatoes. But here's the key. You have to keep working this dough until it feels like the right texture. And then you form the balls. So I'm going to pause or stop for now so that I can get the rest of the ingredients. And then I'll continue this as a separate little video for anybody who wants to see the next steps. So, all right, guys. I hope this is helpful. I particularly am doing this for a few friends who have sent me pictures of theirs, and they weren't either pleased with the texture or were having some trouble, so I thought I'd shoot this little video. Now I'm going to have to finish with these floury hands. Okay, so I had to take a break because the potatoes were too hot to work with. So one of the things you want to do is make sure you cool your potatoes off before you put it in your dough. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get your hands in here and start working the dough. And so I wanted you to see, you have to really work this dough for a while. And I can already tell the texture is going to be too soft. I'm going to probably have to add more flour. And you just keep working it in your hands until you get it to the right texture that you can make the balls. And I did add some salt. A couple times I've forgotten to add salt. And I mean, it's okay. You know, some people don't have the taste for salt. I use real salt, so I don't use that kind of fake stuff. And but you can see it's starting to look more like a dough, but you just keep working it. If you form the rolls too soon, they're just not going to have the right texture. You want it to have this nice, smooth texture. What's amazing is when these come out of the oven, you're going to have the potato part inside is just going to be like a potato, I can't even think of what they are, but they're like dumpling. The potato's going to be inside like a dumpling, and then the outside's going to be this nice crust. So then you try to figure out, okay, is this the right texture? So I'm going to move this aside and start to roll it around and see. And you really do want to roll it to make it a pretty, now that actually looks pretty nice. That actually looks like it's going to do well. So then I'm going to place it on my pan like that. And so, yeah, the texture's coming out pretty well. It's not an exact science. That's the reason you have to feel it. You really have to work with dough and feel it. So I'm just smoothing this out. I used to just kind of plop it down, and then it didn't come out so pretty, and it also just felt lumpy. So you want to make sure you get the lumps out before you actually bake it. And I'm trying to be exact. My mother, God love her, she used to weigh each one. Like whenever she was making something like this, in between, she'd place it on a scale so that they would be exactly the same weight. And I'm not quite as accurate about this. She made cooking a complete art and a science. I mean, this was her life. And those of you who know me know that I teach yoga and I coach and I do all sorts of things. I do heart math and I'm always training myself. So cooking has been part of my healing journey. And I've taken a lot of what I learned from my mother, but I learned a lot more about the foods that were affecting me internally, and I had to do a lot of recipes differently. She used to cook mostly Italian rolls, and so there was an awful lot of gluten in our house growing up. She used to make homemade pizza, homemade noodles. She had a noodle maker. So now I have picked up at least her love of it, but have really been much more aware of how these foods are being felt in my body. So mine are kind of a little flat today, but they will puff up. And then after they puff up, I probably won't do a third video, but I promise I'll show a picture of the final product when I'm done. So, hi Mary, thank you for watching. Anybody? So the recipe itself is actually on my website, on my blog. But again, I've had a lot of people trying this and then I think getting frustrated, either because they were using regular cassava flour, not the Brazilian cassava flour, which I showed in video 1, and they probably weren't kneading enough and really going with how it felt in the hands. So anyway, if you need any assistance in this or enjoyed this, let me know. I've been undecided about whether to videotape, because I'm always posting recipes and posting pictures of the food, but I've been undecided because I really don't have the setup to videotape what I'm doing here in the kitchen, but maybe this worked today.